With me really getting into Warhammer 40k this year, I've been looking for a really fun and enjoyable experience when it comes to video games within this universe, especially when it comes to the first-person shooter side. Darktide was okay, but going back to it now, it's kind of disappointing. But with the release of Boltgun, I've found that game. A first-person shooter that's really fun and fast-paced and enjoyable within the Warhammer 40k universe. With Boltgun, I haven't hated any of my time with it. Yes, there are a couple of annoyances that I have with the game, but otherwise, it's excellent. The two annoyances I have are with the game's toughness mechanic and some of its arena design. In Boltgun, you fight a good variety of enemies. You have your normal cultists, you have Chaos Space Marines, you have Chaos Terminators, and just a bunch of different types of Chaos Demons. Nurglings, horrors, stuff like that. And so far, all of the bosses I've faced are demons. Lords of Change, a Great Unclean One, things like that. Each enemy type has a different toughness level, but a lot of the time, I question how they came up with these toughness levels. With the toughness mechanic or toughness system, the higher the level, the more bullet spongy the enemy is. Not the more things it can do, or the more challenging it is to face, just the more bullets it takes to kill. Your lower toughness enemies that are about level 3 or lower, like the cultists, nurglings, blue horrors, stuff like that, only take 1 to 3 shots to kill from a level 4 bolter. But then you have pink horrors, which take about 5 to 7 shots to kill from a level 4 bolter, but they're the same toughness level of 3. Then you have Chaos Space Marines that are level 4 and take at least 10 to 15 bolter shots to kill from a level 4 bolter. The whole toughness mechanic just feels like it's unnecessary to me. I know it's balanced in there by the guns each having their own power level, and higher level guns like the Melta and Calavar should be used for the higher level enemies, but even with those guns, the enemies still feel rather bullet spongy. The main thing about the toughness mechanic is I don't think it adds anything to the combat. It doesn't really take away anything, but it just doesn't feel like it's needed. And the toughness mechanic isn't the most annoying part to me. That is held by some of the arenas and level design. I love a lot of Boltgun's level design, and a lot of the arenas are really big and really fun to fight in. They have a good combination of elevations, and they are littered with a lot of ammo, health, and armor of contempt pickups. They are made for players to use their mobility really well. They're just arenas that are fun to play in and well designed. But there are a few arenas in Boltgun's levels that I've come across that I really don't like. These are arenas that don't use Boltgun's traditional arena design. A lot of them have open pits that are instant death. Areas like in Act 1 where you're moving between the two sides of a chasm, and the only platforms you have to fight on are a few narrow bridges with a slightly wider area in the middle. Not enough to really move around super well, but a slightly larger area. Or the desert chasms in Act 2, where you're fighting on small walkways along the edge of a pit. It just doesn't feel as good as when you're fighting in a giant arena against a horde of demons and cultists, because your mobility just feels very limited from the small surface areas that you can move around. These areas aren't super common, but it is something that just feels like it's a completely different design from Boltgun's more traditional arena shooter roots. But none of these little annoyances take away from how excellent Boltgun is. Boltgun's combat and art style makes everything so visceral and just fun. I think Boltgun has some of the best shooting I've seen recently. The sound design is one of the highlights of Boltgun. The guns sound meaty, and the impacts of the different weapons, especially the bolt weapons, feel like they could easily punch through someone's chest. I have a slight dislike of certain weapons' visual feedback, like the heavy bolter and meltas, because of how large the feedback is and how much it does get in the way, but it doesn't actually ruin my enjoyment of the game. Altogether, I think Boltgun is a fantastic old school arena shooter, and I highly recommend it to anybody who wants to play a fast-paced, fun, old school shooter. Its levels are large and take a while to complete. Its enemies aren't insanely varied, but there's enough that it doesn't get boring, and the shooting and movement mechanics are super solid. So if you want to play just a fun first-person shooter, take the time and enjoy the experience that Boltgun offers you. Just like if you enjoyed your time watching this video, please grind that like button in half with a chainsword and subscribe to help out the channel. And I hope you have a royal day.